Welcome back. In hockey and any other sport, the coach plays a key role, influencing not only the development of a player, but the development of a person. Sadly, NHLer Sheldon Kennedy knows all too well how destructive that influence can be in the wrong hands. But he's turning around his own personal experience of abuse, trying to protect young athletes by coaching the coaches on respect in sport. Melissa Fung explains.
On this last day of gymnastics class before the holidays,
if you can stay till the very end and cheer everybody on, that's great.
The coaches are rewarding their young charges as parents look on.
Now look at Mom. Yay!
Positive reinforcement, even at this young age, essential in the development of any athlete. Darlene Fedina has been coaching gymnastics for 30 years. She says developing coaches to think that way is just as important.
There's a whole avenue to coaching that a lot of people miss. And if you just stay in that little box and don't think out of the box, you're not a good coach. And all these old school coaches that have their own way and they don't think that they can learn anymore, you're really not benefiting your kids and the sport.
It's why she's so excited about a new course for coaches.
There's a theory section of all coaching, and then there's a technical section. But then there's also an extra one that we have to do, and that's what this course is. It's the extras, it's the extra little icing on the cake to coaching. You recognize how you can use your, how you can use your coaching to really, you can build up an athlete, or you can really tear them down.
Tearing them down can start the moment children set foot in a gym or a rink and continue even when they make the NHL. The pressure to succeed can sometimes put children and their coaches at odds, corrupting the power relationship between them, and in some cases leading to psychological and physical abuse. Perhaps the best-known case, that of Sheldon Kennedy, who for years was emotionally, physically, and sexually abused by his coach, Graham James.
It needs to be simple, it needs to be direct.
And empowering.
So it's no surprise, really, that it has become Kennedy's mission to prevent it from happening to anyone else.
We've learned a lot over the last 10 years. These issues carry a lot of fear. These issues carry fear. Abuse, harassment, and bullying carry fear whenever they're brought up. And I think that sport leaders in our country realize that it is a problem. But I think it's overwhelming to them.
Teaming up with his best friend, Wayne McNeil, who had helped him with his cross-country skate 10 years ago, Kennedy is crossing the country again, this time with a solution. It's called Respect in Sport, a 3-hour internet-delivered course developed by McNeil through consultations with some of the country's best sports psychologists and grassroots coaches, and certified by the Canadian Red Cross.
So basically what happens, if I take you in from the very beginning, once you've enrolled and become a registered user, that's the welcoming page. So we've got a little bit of instructions here.
The program consists of scenarios and questions on how to handle them.
I can't, Coach, I can't. Come on, just kick the ball, you little wimp.
Identify the type of emotional abuse that results from the coach's behavior.
We'll show you how it works, which we think is a positive way.
Degrading. You got it.
When you've completed the whole program, it becomes an online resource for you.
And if a coach needs more personal help, there is a 1-800 number staffed by the Red Cross.
We developed this thing to be equally as accessible on a high-speed connection as a dial-up. It's mostly audio-based, so you don't need to be functionally literate to get through the program. So we have a huge audience that we can get to in an expeditious way and conveniently that I think is going to make this thing much more successful.
And we are now the only internet...
Decision makers are beginning to take note.
But the only change that's going to happen, if we really do want to make change, is going to have to come from sport leaders, the people in this room.
This is a meeting of all the provincial sport bodies in the country.
It's not just a hockey issue. It's It's an issue wherever there's an adult in power or over our children.
It's an issue that's hard to ignore, especially when Sheldon Kennedy is speaking.
We tried many years ago to address what we needed to do in terms of dealing with abuse and harassment in sport, and we really only sort of touched the tip of the iceberg.
In the past 10 years, there's sort of been a hodgepodge of programs designed to deal with abuse, bullying, and harassment in sports. Hockey Canada had Speak Out, and the Red Cross had Respect Ed. But there's never really been one consolidated effort to reach out to all disciplines.
See, I like this.
This is good.
I think
it's not too long.
No, and it gives whether it's long or not, I think you got to give a good example, right?
And that's the void Kennedy and McNeil are hoping to fill.
So basically, this goes through the program, what it is, what it's about, some of the key modules as well.
Okay. So
on this day, they've taken their message to Winnipeg. Manitoba will be the first province to implement Respect in Sport on a province-wide basis. All sports, all disciplines, every single coach will have to take the course.
This initiative, we believe, provides coaches with an opportunity. I believe that it also creates greater awareness that it's not always about winning, but it's about participating and becoming involved. So I think that the uniqueness of it is something that captivated our interest as the province, as the provincial government, and we embrace it.
Embracing it means funding it at a cost of $7 a coach. There may be some corporate sponsorship, but the minister says his decision to fund it is more personal than political.
Looking at my own history as a person that was initially brought up in residential school, having met up with Sheldon Kennedy back in 1998, he's become a personal hero of mine because of his willingness and his strength and his intestinal fortitude to talk about the negative experiences that he's had and empowering people by the sharing of his word.
Sport in general, so that's fitness, that's health.
There is little doubt that the messenger is a big reason the message is resonating around Canada's sport community.
Wayne's, boy, he's done he's helped Sheldon out right from day one, eh?
Hockey Canada is looking at implementing Respect in Sport across the country.
Hockey Canada has taken a lead with our risk and safety management program over the last number of years to really try to make it's safer for boys and girls to participate in the game of hockey. And now through the great leadership again of Sheldon Kennedy, the Respect in Sport is an online program for the grassroots side of sport.
Gymnastics Canada has already made Respect in Sport mandatory for all 2,500 coaches in the country, after it had great success with a pilot project in Alberta. And there's already talk about adopting a program in development for parents with kids in sports.
Not everybody's going to be an Olympian, and by giving parents better skills, better tools, perhaps they'll be able to deal with their apprehensions or their dreams and a little better and make them a little better parent.
There's also a course for officials under development, but Kennedy and McNeil are under no illusions that their program is a panacea.
Because there's always going to be pedophiles. There's always going to be bullies. But what we can do is we can empower the 99% of the people who are not those types to understand it, recognize it, feel comfortable in dealing with it, and nip it in the bud before it becomes an issue. I mean, Sheldon's situation is kind of a case in point. There were people very close to the situation that knew or had a very strong suspicion what was going on, and they didn't know what to do about it.
For Kennedy, doing something and finally saying something about it is a bit like a redemption for all the years he spent running from his past.
I think the big difference now is that I can speak about the issue. It's not just Sheldon's story, and but it took a long time for me to get out of that and feel that get rid of that anger and that resentment that was overwhelming me, And I mean, you know, bottom line, I had to sober up.
It's an issue he now believes he was somehow meant to take on.
I feel like I'm just starting, and I've tried other things in my life, but it's not that I keep coming back to this. People bring me back to this, right? People bring me back to how important this issue is in our society, and they look to me as the one to carry that.
For The National, I'm Melissa Fung in Calgary.
And that's it for us from Columbia. But don't go away. After the break, it's back to Toronto.